Welcome to CMOs Offscript. We're experts in healthcare marketing, and each week we will tackle one topic with unfiltered advice you won't hear anywhere else. Let's jump in.
So, Amanda, to answer your question on where am I going to prioritize for next year, one of the things I've been really trying to understand is with our org structure, our current org structure, and where some of the tools are that we have at our disposal. Oftentimes, it feels like the gaps that we're having on our within the team itself is just how to best optimize the tool set that you have in your tech stack that you do have, and how to best optimize it within the group itself. So there's these new roles. I don't know. Have you all heard of this term called go-to-market engineer? Is this
Oh yeah, this is what we talk about a lot. Oh my gosh.
new buzzword for like
New
this
buzzword.
year, right?
Mhm.
And
Right, shiny
so
object.
I know, right? Exactly.
No.
What is it really? It's just good old RevOps, right?
Mhm.
But good old RevOps mixed with a little bit of AI engineer, right? We're looking for this like unicorn of a person who can best optimize workflows and data flows and kind of get us all the goodness flowing. And I think finding these folks who are go-to-market driven are extremely hard. Like I feel like I've talked to so many of them, and they're either like leaning on the engineering side or leaning too much on the go-to-market side and not enough on engineer. And so I do think that in this new world, like that is going to be, we're going to see those folks popping up more and more. And I think in the new world, we're going to end up having like these types of roles for each subset of teams, right? So like sales is going to have somebody who is an AI focused or like a ops related person that's AI focused. And then marketing is going to have this like AI engineer and product. And like we're going to continue to have these people. We always did, right? We had marketing ops people, we had sales ops people, but then there's this world in which we combined things. And I think we're going to decouple again.
Oh, I
That's
really
like my
like
big
that.
bet.
Mhm.
Because
But
I think
here's
like,
but here's the thing that I think is equally important, and I know we've talked about this. I don't know that we've shared this externally, but I think the other piece of that puzzle, though, is even if you have those ops resources, those really engineering process oriented, set everything up just the right way, we need to have our teams ready to actually use these tools. They
100%.
need to be trained and they need to be committed to leveraging all of the things that we are building for. Yes, life is supposed to get easier because we're optimizing on the back end and making all of this stuff work seamlessly. But there's still an element of use case. Yes, create the workflows, create the automations, simplify on the back end. But how is that translating from an experience perspective on the front end for the rest of the team? And are we using these things the way that they need to be used? So I think it's got to be this tools and training and skill building as we
I
look at
absolutely
2026.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's the difference between the old world marketing and sales ops person, right? Who was more internally focused, looking at the data, figuring out for your marketing CRM to your sales one, helping nitpick versus they were not as much, or at least in my experience, like not as much on the enablement training side of things. And if you did find one that was, geared in both ways, it was like a luck of the draw that
Unicorn.
this, you'd have somebody that was sitting with your marketing person, helping them best optimize their tech stack. And I think in this new world, like each team is going to need to have this AI expert, right? And I don't know if it's an engineer. I don't know. I'm just going to call it like a role that is optimizing that workflow, teaching your teams, here is how you best, we talk about prompt engineering. Here is how, if you're trying to get to a well-written email cadence, here are the sets of prompts that you need to use. Let me best educate you on what you need to do here. And then working individually with folks. And I think that's the missing layer that I have is I've got a team of folks who know how to use, we've got the right tech, but oftentimes it's like the stitching together and the how do you optimize it that I'm still struggling with. And I don't know if it's one role, I don't know if it's two, but I do think that's where I'd like to, because I think that if we figure that out, I think we'd run way faster. And I think the execution element of running way faster is the stuff that I'm trying to solve for.
It's one thing to build the tools, right? But they have to actually get used and be effective.
No,
right?
that's something that we see a lot of this is an old problem. This is
just a new flavor.
It's just a new flavor. We've just got new shiny objects thrown into it. But I think that's always the challenge. Is I think people come into their sales roles, their marketing roles with experience that they gained through, their different jobs, et cetera. But you come in with old experience, and we're throwing new tools all the time. And so the need for people to quickly ramp up on new systems and new tools is pretty huge right now. We can't be sitting back on how we used to do things. We definitely need to carry principles forward. We need to carry principles of quality, of value, of, human interaction, of understanding how you position things and how you fit in your overall client's workflow, et cetera. But, all the good core principles still matter, but you have to be able to then quickly learn these new tools and get these new systems going in order to take advantage of them. And if you're trying to operate on an old school mindset with the new tools, not using the new tools, I think that's really hard. And I don't think that was the most articulate I've ever been, but
yeah, but I think the big difference from previously to where we are today is from an industry perspective, is that there are the scale of adoption, I think, is so wide, and everybody is pushing and saying that, you've got to, every job description now has something about you got to be able to use AI tools or whatever it is. But even that definition of, sure, you can use a GPT to prompt you a few things, but what is your level of experience and expertise in that? And I think we're expecting people to be high competency users when most of folks are in the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
But we're expecting the output to be high.
With not a lot of transition.
No.
I think you're right. And so this goes back to, there's two things this makes me think. One is this goes back to, I think, the last conversation we had, which is we want people in marketing who more of that resource that is multi-talented and not as niche, because we need people who actually are going to be using the tools more, right? So the skill set is different. The skill set is less niche, more multi-talented, but also the ability to use these tools. And probably, in the case of working with sales and marketing alignment, which is one of my hot buttons for the new year, because it's always an issue and it continues to be. And you get so much better results when the two teams are working really well together. But that's where that marketing role can then facilitate the success of the sales teams learning the tools also. And I know that's merging what we talked about at the beginning about having somebody in marketing and in sales supporting the use of AI. But I think there's also this opportunity for marketing to be the resource that helps sales be successful.
Well, and I would just say, I think we're always the resource to ensure that sales is successful. And
right.
I think that's that to me is foundational. So that constant partnership, that constant glue absolutely has to be there. And I think continuing to lean in, focus on revenue and pipeline, right? Just a reminder, we are all focused on revenue and pipeline acceleration. Like that, I will say, is not new for me, but I think continues as we look at 2026 is how are we continuing to accelerate pipeline attribution, making sure that every single thing that we do, like when and where I can, is connected to pipeline and accelerating that. So that's a lot of stuff that I've got my fingers in right now is like I am trying to look at all of the data and try and see, can I tie this back to revenue? Can I tie this to pipeline? And are these things actually helping to accelerate? Like that's a focus for me in 26. Like, I mean, it's been a focus this year and it continues to be, frankly, even more so. So I'm looking at how do I deepen those things?
What tools do you see as most helpful in doing that revenue attribution?
Oh, I don't want to say because I find it super frustrating right now and it has crap dashboard. There's no such thing as a dashboard. So it's a struggle because I can see the revenue attribution, but like being able to look at it I'm not saying the tool has got me all kinds of frustrated. I'm happy to tell you offline, but it's giving me nothing but trouble this year because while it will tell me revenue attribution, I can't tie all the tools together. So we actually are working on expanding the data lake so that we can pull that stuff in, combine it with Salesforce and our HubSpot instance so that all these pieces come and tell a story together. Because right now I'm finding it is like a super manual, painful process, and it requires a non-trivial lift for my team. So I can do it, but it's a slow process.
Okay, I might have to take that line and use it somewhere because I really like it. Non-trivial lift. That's lovely.
Oh, that's a favorite for me. Non-trivial lift. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is like, it's super important. I want to be able to say like, hey, we were tied to 95, like marketing was tied to 95% of all closed won deals. Or, hey, we touched this many renewals, right? Like all of that stuff feels really important. And here are the things that are actually critical drivers of that success and right, all of that. And not just in a generic way, but like what are the key drivers? So, but
Amanda, where do you think that stems from? Why do you let's like I'm gonna have a little therapy session. Why do you think why is it that you need to prove ROI on pipeline? Like why do you feel like you have to get that number right?
Why do I feel like I have to get the number right?
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is, are we actually getting our dollars, right? Dollars are at risk, right? So if you can't show that you're contributing to pipeline and you're helping to accelerate it, I mean, that funds my team's work.
So
that's real talk. Like we are everyone in this universe in a world where costs are rising and resources are shrinking. Being able to prove value is really important.
I agree. I do think so when we like get into this this fight around wanting to make sure that we can provide the right data. So part of my issue right now is that with all the noise, like the data's junk. Like it's just so much and it's all just garbage out there. And so sometimes I worry that like our constant need to prove ROI, is it coming from like a source of where it's anecdotal, where sales or somebody is saying, hey, we just don't think that, marketing's running the right campaigns or we're not seeing the right leads or the quality's missing? Or is it board driven where board members are like, nope, we need to make sure that if we're spending $1 million on digital, like it's actually feeding things? Or are we doing it to ourselves where sometimes we just feel the need to prove ROI on because we want to be like, see this number? We did this. And constantly feel like we have something to prove. Does that make sense? Like sometimes I worry that we are over indexing on ROI.
I think I appreciate that push, but I think marketing is always under the gun, and I think increasingly so, right? We have always been viewed or often viewed as a cost center, right? And I think that ability to demonstrate value. I mean, look at the turnover rates among CMOs. You could not suggest that it's not a priority for boards, for the C-suite to be able to show that value. And I think the expectation in some ways has only increased over time. I mean, the fact that more and more tools that can show pipeline attribution and revenue pipeline and revenue attribution has grown. And I think that's in part because there is demand and expectation. And I think it is also an element of how do we dedicate our resources to the things that are actually the most effective at delivering pipeline? We can do a lot of things. And yeah, that gets an MQL, cool. But is that actually ultimately driving the business forward? Like I can get MQLs on certain types of campaigns all day long. Those are not the right people, and they are not actually the people that will convert into dollars. So I've had conversations. I'm like, yeah, we can do this kind of campaign, but this is not a value driver for our business. So I'm going to sit this aside and focus on the things that actually are driving impact.
And I think that having data for those types of conversations are incredibly valuable. I agree. I think to your point originally about like, there is no perfect scenario in which you would have all the data at your fingertips and like it's all random tools and random things spread across like a 3-year buyer's journey with, multiple stakeholders and like God knows what. I think like that in itself, I'm like, there's just no way that we are ever going to get to the point, and I'm sorry, I don't know whoever has built this, like good luck to them, but like get to the point where we could stitch a story like that together to ultimately prove here are all of our touch points, right? Like the 200 touch points across this organization. You got new executives in, new executives out. They're all over the place. And I'm like, at this point, sometimes I'm like, that's like, I'd rather if we have folks who are questioning whether marketing has an impact, I feel like that in itself is like a whole different scenario of like trying to prove impact.
Right. I think it's more about the fine tuning. To me, I don't see it as like base level. If you don't have the trust and buy-in of the C-suite or the board on your activities, like there's frankly, I think a more just foundational issue. I think it's trying to justify, particularly in situations where you need to spend more, you need to keep dollars, to say, hey, these things are actually really critical for business. Like this is actually driving pipeline. This is creating value. These are not the places we can cut. Right. Yeah. That's how I look at it. I don't think it's marketing's not what, like, I mean, I do have the constant, like, maybe not constant, but I do have this thing of like, what you got for me? Like, I'm not that kind of gal of hey, what you got for me? It's, hey, here's why, here's what we're building. Here's why, here's what it's expected to deliver, and be able to show and tell that story and frame it out in a really thoughtful way that I want to approach that work. And then be able to say on the back end, hey, these things were actually critical drivers of success for the business and, in the near and or longer term.
Yeah, I think, somebody, I can't remember who was saying to me the other day where when it comes to ROI and some of like these conversations, like one of the biggest red flags for me continues to be this aspect around, revenue leaders or even CEOs who just look at marketing as a supporting role and more of that cost center than being able to understand the value of it and knowing that there are activities that we will continue to do because it is great brand building activities that you cannot measure ROI on it right away. You can measure leading indicators to success or not, but like Yeah. I mean, it might be like a 3-year journey. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit around. I'm not going to like spend my time trying to dig through 3 years worth of data to try to figure out if this is the right thing to do or not. It has to, I don't know. So I think I hear you on like the fine tuning for internal purposes and prioritizing and making sure that you're driving the right value at the right channels with the right activities. I just worry that sometimes we are like marketing always feels like we have to like prove
Prove.
why we need a seat at the table. And I'm
It's
like,
true.
screw that. Screw trying to like convince people that we need that seat. Like,
Well, and I think to chime in on the brand aspect, I think what we've seen consistently is when there is not a brand effort happening at a substantial level, our lead gen is really negatively impacted. Like you see in the numbers, and so the need for consistent and impactful brand efforts, and that's so many, that's multi um it's different tactics, tactics that we're talking about, but needing that brand presence is so important for being able to pull through on the lead gen side. Like the two are so intrinsically related that, and to your point, Nisha, sometimes it's hard to prove ROI on a brand effort, but you can prove lack of success when you remove the brand from the program and lead gen then goes down. And we've had this countless number of times. We've been able to show our clients the difference, and where that impact, when you pulled back on brand, we saw a decline on lead gen. So yeah.
100%.
Cheers to
But I
that.
I
also
have,
pressure of ROI. So just so Amanda, I hear you 100%, because that's the name of the game with our business. We're often,
Mhm.
we're consistently having to prove it. So I get it.
Yeah,
It's a dance.
it is. It for sure is.
my, I'm going to leave you all. So going back to my ultimate thing of like trying to best get the teams to move faster internally. I have a question for you all. So I hear a lot on the like the product and marketing side around like roles have changed and we got to adopt AI. Do you all see it on the sales front? Like are sales teams getting the same message of their role has changed and they need to be adopting AI and they need to be optimizing?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Yeah.
I,
To the
I
same
think it,
extent, probably not. But I think they're being expected to leverage AI, especially as they're doing their research. And I think part of this is there's probably some amount, like it depends on who your sales leader is, whether they're pushing that as a driver. And I'm seeing more of it. Like, hey, we need to be tapping into this to be more effective and move quicker.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think also it depends on where they are in their stage of their own process. So if they're delivering without using AI, then I think that they're not being pressured to learn it. And I think if they're struggling, then there's a bigger focus, a greater focus on, are you using all the tools available to you? And AI is a part of that toolkit.
This is one of those things where I worry that I'm in my own echo chamber because I only see it like for things that are related to my purview. And oftentimes I wonder, is the sales have the same pressure? Do they have the same pressure to adopt these tools and use them well and optimize and make sure that when they're sending follow-ups that they're utilizing GPTs like versus, on the marketing front, we get all sorts of questions. How are we using AI in our tech stack? But do revenue leaders get the same questions?
I think they're much more focused on the bottom line. Are they meeting their number? Are they exceeding their number? And if they're not meeting their number, then I really think that's where their tactics are brought into question, their strategy is brought into question. But if a sales leader is making their number, I don't think that they're questioned. That's my opinion based on the view I have into it. But if they are not, then yeah, I think everything's on the table and everybody's experiencing pressure. I don't know. I don't think it's quite the I think marketing is getting an overhaul with automation and AI in a really very focused way. And I think sales
It's
isn't
coming
in
for
the
it.
same way.
It's not, but I think it's coming for sales too.
Yeah. Well, the one caveat is the use of SDRs. Like that's a place in sales where they're getting really hit with using AI SDRs. And there's a lot that I think is going to be really interesting in 2026 to see how that plays out, because I'm hearing a lot of mixed reviews. I'm not sure AI has nailed the SDR role yet.
But
I would love to bring on, I would love to bring on somebody who can speak to that, because I feel like it's time that sales gets the pressure. And like,
you have somebody who could be real. I will reach out to him and see if this is something he feels comfortable talking about, because I think that could be really good too. That's a great idea.
Awesome.
And that's what I'm leaving y'all with.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So 2026.
So many more topics that I had on my list of things that I'm looking at in 2026. So this is like just scratching the surface, but I love the wheels turning on what are we doing to continue to look forward and continue to grow as we walk into the new year. And I'd just like to close by saying, love you both. And I'm so glad that I get to have these conversations with you. It's always such a treat, and can't wait to have more in the new year.
I can't wait to jump into 2026 and see what we're looking at in January. It's going to be really fun. So I feel very hopeful, very optimistic right now. So I think it's good. I think this year of chasing the shiny object has taught us to kind of come back to center. And so that
stops here.
That's right.
It stops here.
That's right.
It's been
next year is Year of the Horse. Like that's a year of power. Let's go. Let's shed. This was the year of the snake. Somebody was like, it's the year of shedding. So let's embrace the year of the horse. And
I love that.
Power.
Let's go. That's perfect. Yeah. All right. Well, in that vein, have a wonderful rest of 2025. Wishing you all of the goodness that this season has to offer. And let's jump in on 2026 in January.
Absolutely.
And to anyone who's listening on this, enjoy December. Take care.
Thanks. Bye everyone.
Guys. Thanks for going off script with us. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to follow, rate, and share CMOs Offscript. We'll be back soon with more raw insights and real conversations with the voices shaping modern marketing. Until next time, stay bold.